Good morning, East Union. I imagine that all of us were greeted sometime by someone when we came in this morning. Is there anyone that was not greeted? We welcome our friends also online this morning, and I wish we would all stand up, turn around, and on three, say good morning to our friends online. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Seated. You know, as we come into church, into the sanctuary, we receive this thing usually from Paulette called the bulletin. And what do? The first thing I do is read down through the order of the service. And we skip over a very important part written at the top. How many have read our mission this morning? Good. Follow with me as we read our mission and our motto. I think this is very fitting that we know who we are, why are we here, and where are we headed. East Union Mennonite Church is a community of love and worship where the scriptures and the Spirit guide all through to faithful living. All are welcome to grow in the way of Jesus, and we share God's love with others in word and service so that we are a light of hope here and around the world. Our motto, growing in the way of Jesus, sharing God's love, word, and hope. So this morning we will begin with our announcements. Today we're headed to Kent Park, and we'll meet at the Bob White shelter to picnic, to swim. Take everything along and bring your lunch unless you just want to have dessert. So that's for today. Next Sunday, we will have snacks and stories and a potluck following at 11 a.m. here at the church. Are there any announcements from anyone here? Raise your hand. Is there anyone online on Zoom? We have a mic. I think it's back there.
This is Elvesta. So I just want to highlight that dessert will be served today, and it'll be served from 12:30 to 1:30 if you want to just come for a dessert, if you weren't going to come. I encourage you to come because it's in honor of someone having a birthday tomorrow that ends with a 0.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is there anyone online?
Anyway, well, Hey, this is Doyle Geyer. Marv Rempel will be sharing next week for Snacks and Stories. So be sure to come down to the basement next week and listen to Marv. I think it was Algeria that he was doing MCC work.
Before we jump into our worship service, I'd like to make a dessert announcement too. I'm making a freezer of ice cream, which I will be rationing out at about 1 o'clock. So just bring a spoon and a bowl. Don't expect much. I also have some black raspberries that I just picked this morning, which I understand are a superfood. So if you're looking for some self-improvement, here's your chance. Okay, for a call to worship this morning, I don't know whether you've noticed, but we often skip over parts of the scripture that maybe are a little too close to our way of living, you know, and we like to get to the good parts, right? The part where God writes all the days of our life in his book, and they're all happy days, right? And he knit us together in our mother's innermost womb. And well, anyway, as we well know, life isn't quite that way. So for a call to worship, we're going to look at Psalm 139, and instead of just jumping to the good parts, we're going to look at the first 10 verses, which I recognized in this call to worship that I'm supposed to be adhering to. But, you know, I didn't follow the dessert protocol, you know, and I'm not going to follow any protocols, apparently. So now, if you had been basking in the light of oh, help me out here, Joel, your wife's name, which Christine Beachy, Sunday school class. And you can say, "Oh Lord, you have searched me and you know me." You can say it with impunity because you know the Lord has searched you and he knows you. You know, you have felt his presence. He knows he has filled you with love, right? You felt the firm hand of Father Luke upon you, or the guiding hand of Tushan when there's a dispute, or you know, you have felt that presence in your life. You know, you have no trouble understanding, "Oh Lord, you have searched me and you know me." So if you were here, I would ask you to say right now, I see Charlie, and you know, he's getting to be that age when you get to be a teenager, I'm wandering from the course, but I've got to say this. You assume an equality with God, or a level that, not an equality, but you know you're at least as smart as he is, right? And you can drift through this most of your life till you get to maybe about 70. And then you come back to Christine Beachy's Sunday school class and you start running into God. Like, I know Phil Yoder is a good example of this, right? He can say, "Oh Lord, you have searched me and you know me," can't you? "Oh Lord, you have searched me and you know me." Okay? You know, these older people up front, they usually, you know, they've drifted back into God, right? "Oh Lord, you have searched me and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise, you perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You're familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, oh Lord. You know the way I drive. You know the way I treat my pet. You know how I provide childcare." Does any of you find that a little disconcerting? I do. Jeez. In fact, you hem me in, behind and before. Where can I go from your presence? Where can I flee from your spirit? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I hide in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn and settle on the far side of the sea, even there, your right hand will hold me fast, right? That's Psalm 139. Now, for you that are, you know, there's some biblical scholars here, and I won't make this up, I will read it to you. This is line 11. Good thing we're only going to have church for an hour, right? Listen to this, though. I say, "Surely the darkness will hide me, and the light will become night around me. Even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is a light to you." John 1, does that come to mind, anybody? Ephesians chapter 4. Do you know there's a reoccurring theme here? That the light drives away the darkness. Thank you. expecting more. No, we're not gonna read it, but hold it. Hold it. Hold it. Okay, I want you to say, "Oh Lord, you have searched me and you know me." Ready? You'd better say it like you mean it. He knows you. Thank you very much.
I, for one, in my life, found that comforting, very comforting. And in darkness, the light can come in. So I think we all have those times. But let us turn our time to worship in song and praise, number 80. We sing to you, O God. And let's all stand as we're able. Number 160, what a fellowship, leaning on the everlasting arms. Grace, would you go ahead? 199, O God, you search me and you know me. And this is right from Psalms 139, 199. And our final praise song, which can be thought of as a prayer too. Calm Me, Lord, 680. And Grace will play through the first part.
time for our, our weekly offering. We ask that you either use the basket in the back, or give through the different methods of giving that we have listed. Let us pray. Holy God, we do not understand your thoughts. Your knowledge is too wonderful for us. Still, we want to participate in your creative work, in all that you are forming and knitting and weaving and birthing. So we give these humble offerings, knowing that you see the sacrifice they represent and the spirit in which they are given. Amen.
Good morning, everybody. All right. How are you guys doing today? Good. Have you ever heard someone talk about having something in their heart? What do you guys think that means when someone says they have something in their heart? Jack, do you know? Nope. What do you think, Lucas? When they're thinking about something or feeling something. Yeah, I think a lot of times we think about feelings. So what are some different feelings you guys have had before? At least that's going to help us here in a minute. Austin, can you think of a feeling you've had before? Have you ever been, oh, tired? Me too. I do feel tired a lot. Let's see, Lisa, you pick one and pull one out. No, not that one. This one, how about this one? Okay, look at this old guy. Look at his face. How do you think he feels? Angry, right? This little guy is angry. Have you ever felt angry? I bet you never get angry at mom and dad, ever. How about your brothers, sisters? Do you ever get angry at anybody? Yeah. All right, let's try another one. How about the blue one? All right, how about this one? How do you think this guy feels? Sad. Yeah, I don't really like feeling sad, but sometimes after you cry a little bit, you feel better. So this little guy feels sad. Let's try the yellow one. How about this one? How do you think he feels? Happy, right? Can you all show me a happy face? I like your happy face, Teddy. That's your happy face? That's his happy face. That's cute. All right, we'll do one more. How about that one? What do you think about this one? He has a bunch of colors mixed together. Anxiety, that's a good guess. What do you think? He's confused. Yeah, I think sometimes we can feel happy about something and kind of sad about something, kind of like mixed up. So this guy, he's called Scribble because he's not really sure how he's feeling. Anyway, today the feeling that we're really going to talk about is peace. So how do you think your face would look if you feel peaceful? Kind of happy and relaxed. Did you say sleepy? Yeah. Yeah. When you're sleeping, you feel peaceful? Yeah. So you feel just kind of relaxed. So this guy is peaceful. We're going to talk about having peace in our hearts. And we have God's peace with us all the time. So we have peace. We know that God is with us no matter where we go. And we're going to hear a poem today. And it talks about even if we fly way up in the sky or we go deep underground or all the way out into the middle of the ocean, God is still with us. So no matter where we go, we take his peace with us in our hearts. And sometimes we still might feel sad.
We still might feel happy, we might be angry, we might be kind of mixed up and not sure how we feel, but you can still take God's peace with you wherever you go. No matter what feeling you have, you still can have peace at the same time. So Lisette is going to help me. She's going to hand out a little, how about give each kid 3. So you get 3 stickers just to represent no matter where you go, you take God's peace with you. So it's going to be a sticker of like a plane or a car, just showing that no matter where you are, God's peace goes with you. And then I'm going to also give you a Hershey's Kiss. So you can take 1 for you and probably 2 to give to a family member or a friend to give them some peace today, okay? You can share the peace with them. Okay, so while she's passing those out, we're just going to bow our heads and say a quick prayer. God, thank you for the peace you give us, that you love us no matter what, and you're always with us no matter where we go. Amen. Thanks, guys, for listening. When you get your stickers and your chocolate, then you can go back to your parents.
Listen as we read. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away.
You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely.
You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high, I cannot attain it.
Where can I go from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence?
If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there.
If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast.
If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and night wraps itself around me, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you.
For it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb.
I
praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Wonderful are your works, that I know very well.
My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth.
Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them yet existed.
How weighty to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. I try to count them. They are more than the sand. I come to the end. I'm still with you.
Good morning. It's good to be worshiping with you this morning. So it's ironic that David said what he did, because we're going to read it one more time. So we've heard it a couple different ways, but this is Psalm 139 from the NIV. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my laying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in, behind, and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark for you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I am still with you. Again, it's good to be worshiping with you this morning. Glad that you are here, present in this space and online with us today. So who is God? What is the character of God? What is the nature of God? If I asked you all to start writing down descriptions of who God is, I think from what we have learned or read or maybe even experienced over the years would elicit some big words like omniscient, all-knowing, or omnipresent, present in all places at once, or omnipotent, all-powerful. The trouble is that when one begins to describe the attributes of the Creator, it's impossible to fully put it into words. We fall short. It's not really even a task that we're called to do, right? To express well who God is beyond us. But the psalmist in this particular passage, Psalm 139, gives it his best effort. In this beautiful expression, the psalmist taps into the human experiences to express who God is. You have searched me, and you know me. God has personal, intimate knowledge of who we are, what makes us us. God perceives our thoughts and knows where we go and what we do. I think about it sometimes if you spent a long time with a person, maybe a child, maybe a sibling, maybe a spouse, someone that you spend a lot of time in the day or night, you get to know who they are, their breathing, their patterns, their idiosyncrasies, the things that make them them, right? Patterns of talking, the ways of thinking. In fact, sometimes you can almost finish someone's sentence, right, when you've spent enough time with them. I think this is a little bit of what the psalmist is getting at, right? God knows us so well that anticipates what we're going to do. Growing up, I think I've talked about this before, but playing sports, like when you are in tune with someone on the whether it's on the court or in the field, something, and you catch someone's eye and they know what you want to do and you know what they're going to do and you go at the same time, don't ever say anything, just look at each other. And there's a deep sense of satisfaction when that connection is made, when you are on the same page as someone else and they know you fully. There's a sense that God's perceptions of us are so intimate that he understands us better than we even know ourselves. and this knowledge is beyond us. It's as if God is trying to capture or catch our attention to remind us of who we are even before we act or react, even before we respond. The psalmist states that God does this by hemming us in, creating sort of a safety net for us. Before we were born, wherever we go, before us, behind us, God's hand rests upon us. And the psalmist rightly states that this knowledge is simply beyond us. We can't understand it. If you had the knowledge of God, this conversation wouldn't be the same. Have you ever been surprised by something you have said or done? Sidebar, real quick. I just remember one time I was sitting in Mary Forney's class. So I attended Iowa Mennonite School, and she was the English teacher. And she randomly said something about, like, haven't you ever wanted to do something crazy? Or I don't know. She said something like that, right? And spur of the moment, I jumped up and started singing and dancing around the classroom. And she was like, what in the world? Have you lost your mind? I was like, what you just said? Haven't you ever wanted to do something crazy? Right? Have you ever had that experience that you surprise yourself? Maybe you've done something really good. Maybe it's something not so good. But we can surprise ourselves sometimes. It's a little disconcerting. Because we like to think that we're in control of our words, our thoughts, and our actions, right? We want to be in control of those things. But isn't it true that every once in a while you say or do something that's totally surprises you? It's as if when you make the statement out loud, you're hearing it for the first time. You know, you have this inner monologue that's going on, you're talking to yourself, but then when it comes out, it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? Sometimes people will describe sort of an out-of-body experience, as if you're watching yourself move and talk, but you're viewing from the outside, like maybe hovering above yourself and seeing it as an observer. The psalmist claims that God knows all of these things better than we do, better than we ever can, intimately. And there is no place that we can go that God is not. We cannot flee to the heavens. We cannot go to the depths of the ocean. For the psalmist puts it, you are there. We can rise early in the morning and travel to the other side of the world, and yet God's hand will guide us. His right hand will hold us fast. We can hide in the darkness, but even that will be as day to God. Sometimes I think of that feeling, if you've ever experienced it, when you first fall in love. There's this moment in time where all you can think about, you're consumed with this other person. Could be someone you intimately love, could be a child, but that idea that they consume all of your thoughts, that's all you're thinking about. Probably a newborn is probably the easiest way to think about that. You eat, breathe, sleep, everything is done around the infant. But what if, in this situation, when we're talking about knowing someone that well, what if it's an unsafe situation? What if someone has experienced harm or trauma? How might they hear these words? See, I think part of the problem with the text is that we live in a culture that values our privacy. We appreciate anonymity, especially in the age where everything online is at risk, right? Your identity could easily be stolen. We worry about someone knowing everything about us. What will they do with that information? Will they use it against us? In our culture, that information is invaluable, and really it can be used to exploit someone. Or if we look at these words to describe how God interacts with us, these descriptions could sound like someone trying to do some type of investigation. Why are they trying to figure all these things out? If you've grown up in the time of the Law and Order franchise, you sometimes wonder about other people's motivations. Why would they want to know that about me? And I imagine that at times in our lives, these types of descriptors of God could sound worrying to us. Is God out to get me? Catch me when I've done something wrong? Is God intent to put me to shame? For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. I mean, to me, the psalmist doesn't sound very upset, right? Doesn't seem to be too concerned that God knows all these things about himself. Why? I mean, again, maybe I would feel uncomfortable thinking about God knowing everything about me, but the psalmist doesn't, and I think it comes down to belonging. What if the psalmist is trying to encourage us as the listeners or the readers of this text to realize that God has included us even before we were born? So much of what we talk about are the ways that we fall short, right? Sin, messing up. We think of all the ways in which we could potentially be excluded, left out. In our history, in different confessions of faith within our tradition, there was the ban, where you literally put somebody outside of the community. And there's a sense within our religious context that makes us imagine that maybe we are better off separating ourselves and others from each other. That somehow we must remain uncontaminated or else we will not be included by God. That God doesn't really want relationship with us, so we have to work really, really hard in order to earn that privilege. But Psalm 139 suggests that God knows everything about us even before we were born. So what could that mean for us today? What could that mean for us right now in this moment? To me, I think the psalmist appears to be wrestling with the question of how God is connected to his creation. On the one hand, we know that God is transcendent. When I say that, we sometimes talk about God being in heaven or above us or beyond us, right? We talk about God as Lord and King and Almighty. God's might and power make him unreachable in some ways. And we cannot fully understand who God is and what God is doing. And yet, the psalmist also brings God into deep relationship with creation. Again, the author writes personally, you knit me together. You knit me together. But really that means all people, each of us, all plants and animals, all of creation. I think it's important to understand that the psalmist isn't just simply talking about biology here, though. He's talking about relationships, interconnectedness. The psalmist is trying to capture the idea that God has not simply created the world and then hightailed it off to some place and maybe we'll come back and look in on his experiment at some point. The passage is describing a deep longing for us to be known, to be seen. I wonder if the psalmist uses these images of life as it is just being formed, as it's just being created, because that intimacy is set in a place before we ever enter into the world, before we ever know of this world's brokenness and bitterness. A world that so often leaves us feeling isolated and alone. A place where even when we do not intend it, our words and our actions cut down others and break relationships. Now, I'm kind of in the same situation as David. My honest response to this psalm when I was growing up, and even now I wrestle with it, is in some ways God feels a little bit like the boogeyman. Like God's in this psalm is almost described as like I don't know, like know everything about me, every time, everywhere, every place I'm at. What does that mean? But I think the psalmist is trying to help us understand how God, our Creator, is really intimately connected to us. The wholeness of God. God intended us to be who we are. And we simply need to live into who we have been created to be. In some ways, I think the psalmist calls us to be at peace with ourselves. What would it look like for you to feel at peace with yourself today? To be okay with who you are? We as Christ followers, I think, know this to be true, because even though we have the psalmist who's trying to convey this idea or the nature of God, we know that God sent his own son, Jesus, to demonstrate it, to live it out. And in Jesus, we see love and compassion for those who do not know love and compassion for themselves. Jesus also challenges those who would use power and authority to distance themselves from others or to keep others outside of the temple. In this part of Psalm 139, it breaks down some of the divisions to remind us that we have been wonderfully and intimately made by our Creator, that this somehow reflects the good news, and that all may come to know and accept God's love. Because when we do, we see more clearly how God has called us to be in the world. So, I said, oh, what if God's sort of like the boogeyman? I don't think that, but if we set that aside, what if Psalm 139 is actually the best news in the world? God, our Creator, sees us, sees you, knows us, knows you, and doesn't run away in terror. I imagine that if I lived with that kind of confidence and assurance, it could change my life. I no longer need to worry about not receiving enough love and acceptance from others. I could maybe extend greater grace and mercy to those with whom I disagree. The differences between myself and others would no longer be a burden because I would not fear that they're somehow going to use an advantage against me, that they could somehow take away my own well-being. Because the Creator knows me and watches over me. My hope this morning is that we may hear the words of Psalm 139 and receive it as good news this day. May you accept that you too, along with the person beside you, along with the person in front of you, along with the person behind you, are fearfully and wonderfully made. May this make all the difference in the world. May it be so.
Turn to 533, quietly and peacefully. This will be a familiar tune. If you note down below, it says Dvorak. So it's part of the New World Symphony, and maybe you know it as Going Home. But we will sing through it just as it is written. And I'm going to ask that everyone stands for this as you are able.
up inside your head. You got a voice that says you won't get past this one. You won't win your freedom. It's like a constant war, and you wanna settle that score. But you're bruised and beaten, and you feel defeated. This goes out to the heaviest heart. Set match, time to put it in your past. Oh, feel the winter leaving. It's redemption season. Long live the young at heart. Cheers to a brand new start. We're revived and breathing to live a life of freedom. Oh, to everyone who's hit their limit, it's not over yet. Until the kingdom comes, or until the race is won. Don't you ever give up. No, no, never give up. Until the kingdom comes, or until the race is won. Don't you ever give up. We will never give up. And oh, to everyone who's hit their limit.
Let's stand to sing for our sending song 843, May the Peace of Christ be with you.
Now receive this benediction blessing. Whether you sit down or rise up, whether you stay near or flee far, whether you live in sunshine or in shadows, you are still with God. The presence of God surrounds you. The love of God leads you. The peace of God dwells within you now and always. Amen. Go in peace.